Hi guys, welcome back to the workshop. I'm Nick Reeves, and if you haven't been to this channel before, this is dedicated to my hobbies that I do with my boy Ewan. This video, you've probably seen in the thumbnail, a bit of an unboxing of this engine. It should hopefully be an OS48 that I recently bought from a friend of mine online who was selling off a whole load of modelling gear from either a deceased modeller or a modeller that has given up modelling due to health reasons. I'm not exactly sure of the situation, but there's a whole load of stuff he's selling off. Anyway, saw this engine in the background of a picture of another engine that was for sale and said, what's that? I want that. Anyway, it's here now in my hands. Let's see what we've got. Right then, let's see what we've got in here. So if you're watching this, the person who actually sent this to me, well done on the packaging. It's got it here in one piece. So there we have it. That is what I was expecting. There we are. Should be a 48 in here. Now, this just by looking at the exhaust, I can tell it can't have run that much. There is a bit of stickiness on the outside, but I'm guessing that when this engine was run, it was run on castor based fuel. Look at that, still nicely packaged up in an oily bag. That is what we like to see. That is someone that's looked after an engine. There we are. Yeah, so it has run, because there is some residue, oil residue around it, but it's solid. Now, I was fully aware of it being solid when I agreed to have the engine. What I'm planning on doing is getting some oil into it. Not exactly sure what's going to be the best way of doing it just yet. I might even just soak it in a bath of petrol. But that's the engine. As you can see, it's in great condition. There's not really a mark on the outside at all. I don't even think this has been mounted, but it must have been to run, so it's difficult to tell. Either way, great engine. So what I'm going to do just now is I'm going to get a propeller, bolt it on, and just see if I can feel if it'll move at all, and then I'll go from there. Might put some heat into it to free it off. Yeah, well happy with that. But even in the box, it's got all the original poster. I can remember having that poster up on my wall as a kid. What else we got in here? Allen keys, running instructions, even the original stickers. So that's good. Original stickers, original mount, or mount template should I say. Choke lever, which I've never used. That looks like a spare woodruff key. I don't know why I'd have a spare one. Is it a woodruff key? Yeah, it's a woodruff key, so you've got a spare woodruff key. And that bit, even that bit there, that was the original packing that went on there, on the crank, when it was sold new. So that, I'm very happy with that. Right. Okay guys, so off camera there, what I've done is I've just put a prop onto this. I don't know what size it is, it's 11.6. Might be the, actually thinking about it, it might be the right size just to fire this up. Probably not the best size prop for it, but it'd be enough to fire it up. The engine was solid when I took it out of the box. I was told this before I bought it, I'm going to state that again. But now it is actually freed off. So what have I done? Well, the first thing I did was there was no plug in it, filled up the plug hole and therefore the bore with penetrating oil. I also injected some penetrating oil into the crankcase breather and let it sit probably about half an hour. I then just gently put pressure on the prop, just gently just moving it backwards and forwards until it just kept on moving, getting oil into it. Put some oil into the exhaust to help so that when the valve opened it got oil all around that. But once it was moving, which I said it's moving quite freely just now, and we've got a lot of compression just now, one of the things I noticed was that it wouldn't, when I put the plug in, it wouldn't physically go over top dead centre, and this was a bit alarming, to be honest. I thought something had broken up inside and whatnot. But what we've got, as you can see here, I've taken the rocker cover off. I don't know how well you'll be able to see. Taking the rocker cover off. This valve, which is the inlet valve, was stuck solid. When I was turning it over, the exhaust was opening, but the inlet wasn't opening at all. This little grub screw, again I don't know how well you'll be able to see, the grub screw in the centre, not grub screw, it's a bolt actually. Undid that bolt, take the rockers off. The rockers are free to move, so it's not the rockers causing the issue. Put the crank at top dead centre, which is where both these valves should be fully closed, and therefore there should be a gap on these rockers. The push rods, one of them was free to move, the other one was solid. So it meant that the cam follower in here on the inlet valve side was solid. So the only way around that, without stripping the whole engine down, I just put a bit of heat from the hot air gun, or the covering gun in this case, onto this area here just to free it off, and then turned it over with a bit of pressure onto the push rod to push it down. And then I felt it start to move. Did it a few times, got it moving up and down, and I've put the rockers back on, and again I don't know how well you'll be able to see, but now as we're going round, that's compression there, which is lots of it. You should see now, that's the exhaust valve opening, and then inlet valve opening, both closed, and we come up to compression again. So that really now, once I've got the rocker cover back on, will be good to get onto the bench and see if she'll fire up. So far so good. I'm fully expecting this to need a fair bit of running. I've also just noticed the carb's solid as well, so I'm going to have to free that off. I'm fully expecting this engine to need a fair bit of running. One, because I think it's still fairly new, and two, because it's been run with a castor based fuel, so I think it's going to be quite well gummed up. I run fully synthetic fuel, so this is probably going to need a good few tankfuls to get this running nicely, which isn't a problem. I'll stick it on the bench, run it up and just have it ticking over, get up nicely to temperature, and see where we go from there. I'm hoping this is a good engine, because I've got a plan for this engine which I don't really want to let out just now, but it's a bit of a nostalgia trip if I can make it happen. What I might do, so I get some airtime on the engine, is actually put it into the magnetilla that we've got recently as a refurb project. Because I had a magnetilla with a 48, well, my dad had a magnetilla that I flew. Sorry Dad if you're watching that. I had a magnetilla that I flew with a 48 in it, and it was lovely. So I might well see about putting this into that airframe to get some airtime on this engine and get the other airframe flying. So yeah, free off this carb now. I might have to do the same sort of thing. I just get a bit of direct heat onto this carb barrel see if I can just do it just now. There you go, it's amazing what a bit of heat can do. So while that's running, or while that's got some air in it, let's put a little spray of oil in there. There we go, lovely. So, now we just need to get it on the bench. Well then, as you can see from that bit of footage, the 48 runs as expected, really nicely for an old engine. I really don't think it's run that much at all. I haven't actually, as yet, while filming this, I haven't actually reviewed the footage of it running, but when it was running, it was running very rich. Couple of issues surrounding getting it running. One, I didn't have any 4-stroke plugs. Two, it had stupid amounts of compression, so what I've done is I've used a 2-stroke plug and actually put 2 copper washers underneath the plug just to reduce the compression just that little bit. So I'm not too worried about that just now. It running rich is fine. So just going back to how I got the engine, I'm going to say again, I bought it knowing that it was solid, took a risk on it. I must say, again, if you're watching this, Kyle, cheers, great engine. The biggest issue was the inlet cam follower. That was solid, but now it's freed off, get a bit of oil around it, that'll be fine. The only thing that I might well look at in the not too distant future in its running life is possibly replacing the bearings. I think they're just casted up. They don't, having run it there now and they've got a bit of heat into them, they feel quite smooth. So what I'm going to do when I can is 1, get a 4-stroke plug for it, 2, take out one of the washers so it's got a normal compression, 3, find out what's the right prop for it. I think it's got 11.6 on there just now, which would be fine just for testing, but I think it's going to be about that, maybe a little bit more for running. And then take it up to the field. Where I can, just sit it on a bench, run a whole tank through it at half power, something like that. Just get it up to temperature, get it all naturally oiled up with fuel, the oil's in the fuel, and hopefully it'll be a good engine. As I said, I don't know if I've shown it in the footage, but I've actually unwound the idle mixture. Because it's an air bleed carb, to make it leaner at the bottom, you wind the screw out to let more air in for the amount of fuel that's going in. That's improved the bottom end running a little bit, but I think it's just running rich in general. There's probably a lot of rubbish in that engine, oily rubbish, that needs burnt out and flushed out. So I've even been thinking, what could I put it into? What model could I put it into just to get it into the air sooner rather than later? And I'm having a few thoughts on that just now. But yeah, it's going to be a good engine. So yeah, thanks again, Carl. This engine will probably go back in its box just now. I can't really show the engine because it's actually still on its bench outside cooling down. But this engine will probably go back in its box for just now, once I'm happy that it's running. If this is the sort of video you like me doing, let me know, give me a thumbs up. If you're watching this and you haven't already, subscribe down the bottom here. Any comments, questions, underneath there's a part where you can put them in. I do read them all and I do try to reply to all of them. When it comes to it, I'll show you what model I'm putting this into. I says, I don't know. But hopefully that'll be sooner rather than later. But until then, I'll catch you again soon.